So this video is going to be different than what we had originally planned when we were doing this job. My 19-year-old son was fixing to join the Marines, so today, or the day this is being recorded, my wife and I are going to Kansas City to drop our son off at MEPS. So that leaves Brent here by himself to do the waterproofing, and he doesn't like talking to the camera, so we'll just do a voiceover. So now that that's out of the way, you kind of know what we're doing here, so this is why this video is different than part one. The very first thing that you can see Brent doing is checking the studs with the level. We're looking to see how in plane everything is, so he knows if he's going to have to wet shim to get the Kerdi board to be flat and true. These walls are actually really nice and true, so we didn't have to wet shim. And so he's just going to go on and cut the Kerdi board to the size of the opening there, and then attach our fasteners and go from there. And then on the opposite wall, we'll do the same thing. It was pretty nice how both walls were really true and flat. We haven't been seeing that a lot with the framing, and so when we don't have to do wet shimming, it just goes a little bit better and saves some mud. But wet shimming is still a really good alternative if the framing is slightly out, as that gives us a really nice flat substrate to tile over without compromising the quality of our showers and sacrificing a lot of speed. So keep watching him work, and I'll interject here in a couple more minutes when the next segment comes up. So the new Schluter drains are being sold a little bit differently. You can see on the top of our air scrubber there the drain packaging. What Brent is doing is taking the template out to mark on the plywood, and then we're going to use a Sawzall type tool, hacksaw from Milwaukee, to cut the template out to make sure that the bonding flange drain is the right size. We don't want to overcut the plywood. That way there's not enough support right around the drain. And so it's a good idea to use the templates, or if you have one, you can use a 5-inch hole saw, which we do have, but for this particular job, I had it in my van and I wasn't there. If you're careful when you're doing your demo, which we tried to be, so we were able to pull off some really large pieces of drywall. So saving the drywall like that and being gentle is allowing us to cut down an old piece of existing drywall to patch this hole. And so that's what Brent is doing there. And then, so it's just more of a be careful doing demo, and you might get lucky and save yourself a few bucks and a trip to the lumber yard, because a lot of times the drywall can be reused. There's nothing wrong with doing that, and so we do when we can. Another item to point out here real quick, shower drains are designed to go on 2-inch drain pipe. The existing piping here was only 1.5 inches, which works for a 50-gallon corner jetted tub, but for some reason isn't code for a tiled shower. And so we went on and just kept the 1.5 inch pipe and made a trap. And then we're going to put a reducing bushing right inside the drain. So the second the water leaves the shower, it's going into an 1.5 inch drain. If you don't have a 2-inch and you have to size it down, don't put a coupling or reducing bushing after the drain someplace. Go on it and just make the whole thing be the same length. You don't want to force a lot of water into a smaller opening, but since this is all 1.5 inches, we should be fine. It's just a 2.5 gallon supply from the faucet, and so that 1.5 inches is going to handle a lot more than a 2.5 gallon per minute flow. The other thing real quick, if you're watching and you've made it this far, show Brent your appreciation for all of his hard work up to this point, and give us a thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. When both of us are on site, we usually pre-cut our Kerdi band. One of us will start measuring and cutting while the other person measures and mixes thin set and lets it slake. When you're working by yourself, it can get a little bit overwhelming if you're not real careful. And so in this application, this bathroom is upstairs. Brent went ahead and did all of his band cutting early. So all he had to do at that point was mix thin set, let it slake, mix it again, and he was ready to go full on once the mud was done and it was ready. And so then he didn't lose track of time or other things. But so when you're working by yourself, you may need to take a couple of minutes and just be prepped and ready. Do remember there's almost always a slake time on your thin set mortar, and so if you try to time it so that way you can get a few things done during the 10-minute slake, that's not a bad idea either. And then while he's cutting this out, I want to go on and point out we did use, and we do use, the mixing valve flanges that come in the drain kits. On Kerdi Board, it's not necessary. They are only required to be installed on sheetrock, but since they come with the drain, we just go on and put them in. It just makes it look nice. And then another real quick thing to point out here, working by himself, the camera cord got bumped, and so he didn't realize he didn't get the banding of the walls done on video, and so it does skip ahead to the shower pan, but the shower pan is the most important thing. And I do want to point out those crescent moons that you saw him cut out of the pan earlier in the video. We do thin set mortar those on top and bottom and slip them under that Schluter bonding flange. That way the entire bonding flange is fully supported in mortar, and then you can see him here buttering up the bottom of the curb on the sides where it's going to touch the pan. That's just to help give us adhesion. We just use 2-inch Kerdi Board for our curbs, and so using the 2-inch Kerdi Board is plenty, but it really helps to thin set it together and be really, really strong. And we do love these new Schluter pans with the Kerdi pre-attached. Throwing that donut ring on just takes a couple of minutes or a couple seconds really, and so much faster and better, and just an overall much more efficient on our part because the Kerdi is pre-attached to the pan. he's going to go on and start putting his inside corners on as well. And so one other thing I want to point out, the vertical corner piece, the banding that goes from the shower head down to the pan goes all the way behind the corner. When we put our inside corners on, you're going to see him here in just a second measure. We measure from 2 inches away from the wall, or it's actually a little bit more than that, where the offset in the corner is, to keep us from having 3 layers of banding anywhere. The way we install our Kerdi band, there's only ever 2 layers of Kerdi band, so we don't have all the buildup that people kind of sometimes complain about. And so we find that that works out really well, and using a slightly taller notch trowel will cover those that little tiny bit of buildup pretty easy and not be a problem. And so he's going to cut the rest of his banding here, and he'll finish waterproofing, and that'll be the end of this video. So if you've made it this far, do give us a subscribe click as well, and don't forget to ring the bell and keep updated with our latest videos. We appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click the subscribe button. Don't forget to ring the bell to keep updated with our latest videos. Also, be sure to check out the next suggested video that's going to pop up as well. Thank you very much for watching.